Morning. It's Wednesday now, I think. Yeah, it's Wednesday. Yeah, I'm just going to show you now what I was up to last night on the digger. The bottom of my warehouse shed, the car shed, the bottom door, which is normally where I load and unload cattle if I'm moving them. The way I've been sort of drawing up to this bottom door the last couple of years really is just driving round this track up the concrete ramp and then onto this bit of grass and then back up to the door. And for years it's been fine. Even when we had sheep, we used to lamb in that shed, so every time we were in and out with sheep I just used to draw onto this grass. This grass is on there's quite a lot I've noticed digging, it's quite stony underneath, which is what, and it's quite high up here. It's not like low lying, and it just stays dry. It's never really been a problem. Even in the winter you can drive around it on here with a trailer, and it's never dug in, because I've quite often thought to myself a few times whether I should dig it out and put a track in, save driving on the grass. But I thought, well, it's pointless doing it because I've never got stuck. It's never been a problem, you know, it's dry most of the time. So, but then yesterday, not yesterday, must have been Sunday, I weaned me suckler calves, but I attempted to wean them, and I put them in the trailer and brought them down here, and I drew up to here, and it was just spinning. It was just all slimy on the top, and my Ivor Williams trailer, although it's brilliant on the road, it's got tiny wheels. It tows lovely on the road, but as soon as you go anywhere off the road, it just doesn't move. It just sinks and just sits like doesn't move at all. So I thought, right, it's time we put some stone in here. Anyway, I'm gonna have to explain. Monday was, as it turns out, was a bit of a disaster, because I planned to take the 4 cows to the market, and I went to everything was going to plan. I got up early and they loaded up reasonably easy, which could have dragged the job out. And I got to the market for just after 6, which is when I know, you know, when I take store cattle, which is on a different day. You know, when you turn up 6 o'clock or after, they're open, and there's usually by then, I mean, there's a lot of sheep have already been brought in earlier than that. But the barren cows were on a different day, and I didn't think to check what time the sale was, and so I rocked up at 6 o'clock and the market wasn't open. Anyway, having sat there for a while waiting, I realised that the sale was actually later on in the day. But I thought someone might turn up at 7 o'clock, and no one did, so I waited till 8 o'clock and still no one turned up. So I had to come home because I had egg deliveries to do, and I'd promised to get them out first thing because people were running short. So unfortunately I had to drive all the way home again with the cows and let them back into the shed. Someone told me that barren prices have dropped and they're not really trading very well at the moment anyway, because I half thought about taking them to a different market today, but I can't anyway because I've got chickens coming today. So there we are. So my grand plan all fell apart because what I did was I locked this bunch in the far end of this pen, and I put the 4 calves from suckling calves from the cows in here just temporarily overnight, and then my plan was to get the cows gone, sold, and then this big bunch we're going to go into the cow pen in the top yard, and then I was going to mix those longhorn calves at the far end of the shed in with the 4 with a pen in here, and then clear all my calf pens out into a pen at the top. That was my great plan. But of course, because the cows came home, I had to change my plan. It was no good keeping even if I sold them next week, it was no good keeping these locked up because they couldn't all fit around the feeder to eat. And I just didn't really have anywhere else. I suppose I could have fettled up a pen for the 4 calves, but I thought, oh, blow it. They were bawling like mad. I thought they'd wean easily, but the cows weren't happy, and neither were the calves. I mean, they're plenty old enough to be weaned. You know, they're 6 months old at least. So I thought, blow it. I'll take the 4 calves and put them back with their mums. What did I say? Calves, and put them back with their mums for now, and let this lot back in. But to do that, I had to sort this out because it was a muddy mess from when I got stuck on Sunday. So that's why last night I was set about digging this out and putting some stone in, and then after I did that, I moved all my cattle around. So that was last night's escapades. So I haven't finished. There's another trailer of stone to go in there, and then I might just put some road planings. I've got some road planings, so I'll put them on top, just finish it off. So yeah, that explains the digger job and my whole disastrous day. I mean, it wasn't really a disastrous day. I mean, I did everything I set out to do, I just didn't sell anything. By some miracle, I managed to get back in time to go to the sheep market. So I took my sheep, which I wasn't confident many of them would be fat anyway, so I was going to let them grade them. So I took my sheep to a different market. This is a more local one. And the fella felt them and he said, "Oh, are you desperate to sell them?" And I said, "Not really." He said, "Well, if you've got grass, I'd keep hold of them for another month or 2 because they're not overly ready," which I didn't think they were, to be honest. I just thought that I might sneak a few out before Christmas, make room to buy some more new ones in, but as it happens, it wasn't to be. So I wasn't really, I mean, that was again a bit, I basically spent the day driving around in my Land Rover, but it wasn't a complete disaster. I need to get all these fed now. I've got chickens coming this morning. Oh, bloody hell, the chickens have already arrived. I'm nowhere near ready. They don't normally come till sort of after lunch at the earliest. I'm still just working my way through my job, so I'm going to have to go and unload him now. Yeah, just get the shed ready. Oh, what a morning I've had. Yeah, the hens are in now. And we got them unloaded. Which went reasonably well, I think. He wasn't the fastest bloke for unloading, but we got them all in. But he turned up early, didn't normally come till like after lunch, so I wasn't really prepared, so I had to quickly just get everything out of the shed, get the heater on, and I had no food, and I was on my own, so I had to stop and help him unload the chickens for an hour, and then once he'd finished I went and got some food and come to turn the auger on and it kept tripping the electric off, so I thought, oh, here we go. I'd never checked that. I'd obviously checked we had lights on, so I knew that there was power to the shed, was all working, but I never actually ran the auger, which I should have done. So I faffed around with it. I took my air compressor in there. I took all the covers off the junction boxes and blowing all the water out the terminals, and I honestly couldn't figure out what's tripping it off. I'm starting to think it might be something to do with the sensors, because at the end of the yeah, I'll show you in the shed now. These new chickens, it's just settling down. They're a bit dopey, if anything. Yeah, at the end of this line is where the motor is, and when the feed gets to the end, it once it comes up to the top of the motor, it hits a sensor which obviously cuts it off, stop it overflowing. It's about 17 degrees in there now. I've warmed it up and it seems to be staying at its temperature. Yeah, I think maybe it's something to do with the sensors, what's tripping, whether one of them's got stuck or I don't know. Anyway, I was moaning at Dan, saying I don't know what's tripping the electric off, just to see whether he could think of anything, because he's been fiddling with it all. And he said, oh, you might just have to, for time being, just run an extension lead in and put a plug, pull the wires out of the junction box and put a plug on it. So that's what I've done. So I've got all the feeders full anyway now, so I'm gonna have to try and figure that out. It's just annoying because every time you try something and it trips off up in the top, up in the yard, well, where the house is. So I just have to keep walking back up and two. And it's not like you can keep, you know, if I had someone here helping me, I could have someone keep flicking it, and you can near enough tell usually what's tripping, because you can smell something fusing, or you can see or hear the pop. So with two people it's usually a lot easier to figure out what's causing it, but I can't. Yeah, on your own it's just a lot of walking up and down, not really knowing where the hell's causing the trouble. Anyway, so yeah, it's just been a bit of a long old morning. I haven't fed any of my cattle yet, so I'm going to do that. What time is it? Yeah, it's 1:30, so I'll go and get my cattle fed and then go and have some breakfast. Oh, a lorry turned up as well. We got a Christmas tree. We rent a yard to a Christmas tree fella sometimes in the winter, this time of the year, and he came and dropped a lorry load of wooden blocks, what they use for Christmas tree stands. So he turned up while I was in the middle of trying to sort the feed out, so he had to sit and wait for a minute. I had to load him up as well. So yeah, it's never straightforward, is it? Yeah, I was just while we were unloading the hens, I was having a word with the lad who delivered them. He works on a pullet rearing farm, and they've got quite a few big sheds. They weren't actually theirs, what they was delivering, but they also go around delivering them as well. So yeah, I was just picking his brains really, and about their water system. I said to him, do you have like an automatic flush on your drinker lines? And he said no. He said, but we flush them out manually. I said, oh, how often do you do that? He said, oh, about in between each flock. And I was like, oh, which would be, 5 months. So I was quite surprised really, and I said, well, and then I talked to him about it a bit more, and then he mentioned turning the water on and off. I said, oh, why'd you turn the water off? And it turns out they turn the water off when the lights go off. So they have a valve with a timer on it in between the header tank and the drinkers, and when the lights go off at night or just before, they shut the water off that's going to the drinker line, obviously to make sure they don't drip overnight, because they don't generally have cups on them in rearer sheds. So to avoid any flooding, which I never really thought about that, but that makes sense, because you know, and thinking more and more, it might just be that might just be the solution to some of my wet muck problems. It just means I'd have to have, you know, I've got 2 drinker lines in each shed, so I'd have, you know, these big sheds have just got like one line that runs all the way down the length of the shed, whereas I'd have to get seven valves with timers on. But it'd certainly be worth maybe experimenting with that. So yeah, I just thought it was interesting anyway, because I mean, if when they come on in the morning, he says they come on the same time the lights. Well, if they came on 10 minutes after the lights came on, the water I mean, that'd give the hens a chance to drain the drinkers out completely. So I said, so effectively you do basically drain out the drinkers every day and replace it with fresh water. He said, well, yeah, when you put it like that, I suppose they do, and their header tank is outside the shed, so it's not in the warmth like ours are. So the water should keep a lot fresher. So yeah, I thought it was all quite interesting really. But anyway, it's time for me breakfast and a cup of tea, because yeah, it's just been one of them mornings. Right, I'm just gonna Christ, it's almost the end of the day already, but I'm gonna go fetch that last load of stone that I loaded up last night and tip that off now, level that out and see what it looks like, and then I might bring some road planings down. Yeah, these are tree stands. What it is they've just been drilled out. I can't see how they would hold any tree up, because they're not very big and they're not very heavy, but every year this fella shifts loads of them. But never heard of anyone actually ever using one of them, so who the hell he sells them to, I don't know. Yeah, running out of stone as well. I'll have to get some more delivered, I think, before start working on the rubble project in the other yard. It seems a bit soily. I don't know whether it's soily or whether it's sandy, this stuff. I mean, it spreads out, levels off really nice, but then when you drive on it, it's not like limestone crush, you know, where you can just literally drive on it and it goes rock hard. Well, I find this crushed brick with a combination of a topping of road planing works quite well, and it's the most economical way of creating hard standing around here. I mean, if you're like next to a sandstone quarry or something, maybe that might be a better option. Chalk or wherever you are. Around us there's a lot of skip people doing recycled crushed brick. It's usually one of the cheapest ways to go, but the quality of it varies drastically, and you can sometimes end up with bits of metal and nails and screws in it. So I'm just going to tip that one there. It's not very deep there. As I was digging it, scratching it off, I kept hitting stone or gravel, so I thought, well, there's no point scratching stone and replacing stone. And this bit here wasn't actually the bit where I sunk, it was the bit up there which I've already done, which was the problem. So yeah, I mean this warehouse used to be a greenhouse, which was a shop, so at one time this whole area was part of the nursery, well, the nursery beds, if you like, where they had the plants. So I think this bit here was actually a shade area. It had like had a canopy over it. Struggle to remember now. It was only when I was young. I think there was like a shaded canopy here. Remember, this is where we used to sell the Christmas trees. Back in the day, we used to grow. I mean, those trees that are there were all planted. Well, even them over there were all planted by my granddad and my mum to my uncle to sell as, you know. Well, back then they used to dig them out. And I sort of grew up in the era where it went from everything being a rooted Christmas tree. You know, it was sort of unheard of to cut them. And like for us, you just end up with a field full of stumps. Whereas when we used to dig them all, you know, the field was clear then. Yeah, you ended up with holes everywhere, but you got the majority of the soil off the root, and then they were presented in the shop with the option to have them. You know, a lot of people put them in a pot, and they might, you know, dig a hole and stick it in the garden for the year, and then use it again the next year. But so the option was, you know, do you want it as a root, or do you want us to chop the stump off it? And then it just gradually became that more and more people wanted the stumps chopping off them. It just got to the point where it was pointless digging them, really. So we ended up with fields full of stumps, which was sort of what I did as a teenager, dug them all out. Found a use for a digger and just set about digging them all out. But I mean, pine stumps rot away pretty quick if you leave them for five years or so. Generally they go to mush, especially on our real heavy wet ground. So, will it start? That's the question. It's always a bit of a tense moment in the digger. Let it glow. It's gone. Happy days. Oh, it's gone dark now. It's, God, these short days really sneak up on you, don't they? I'll be glad when it starts getting light again. Winter hasn't even begun, has it really? So yeah, well, that track's nearly done. I could put another half load of planings just to finish it off, but it doesn't really matter. It wasn't supposed to look anything special. It was more just for the practical aspect of it. I'm just going down and check my pullets now. The light's about to go off. I remember I definitely I set the timer, but I can't remember whether I checked the time on the clock. It's normally not a problem, even when the shed's been unplugged for weeks and weeks. It normally keeps the time. It must have a little battery in the timer, so I've never had to mess with it, but I do usually check. Not that it matters really, as long as they don't have more than 10 hours, they'll be alright. It doesn't matter when they have them. So yeah, I'll just go and check them now and just see whether they've been eating much. And then yeah, I'm gonna have to look into the problem of the feeder. Oh, the lights have already gone out. That's a bit worrying. I should have had another 10 minutes, so I'll just check the time. So yeah, I'm going to sign off here now, end the video, because it's dark, and I usually forget to do it. Forget to finish the video and then just roll it over onto the next day, but then you end up with bloody very long videos, so I'm going to call it a day. So yeah, thanks for watching. Bye for now.